upright, the top of the vehicle pointed skyward. You will hear a difference in communications from the crew to what is called a very low data rate of VLDR. You'll hear the call out from the Capcom Jackie Mahaffey here in Mission Control. The change is because we no longer will be on the ItzDrizzlaMania system, but rather on S-band communications.
Welcome to the ItzDrizzlaMania
SARSAT communications capability to the recovery forces on the John
commentary on the NASA Artemis 2 mission.
Helicopters and the fast boats that will be approaching the spacecraft to begin the process of ensuring that the vehicle is safe and free from toxic gases before erecting a raft called the front porch along the side of the vehicle that will be the precursor.
This is going to be a pretty good stream. I mean, our internet connection stable, GPU stable. Everything's stable. Seems GPU is fine. GPU is at least 83% usage, 48 Celsius. We're good. CPU is fine. RAM's fine. Everything's good. I specifically chose the RX 550 because it's got a pretty good code seed, just specifically for the stream. And plus because it's got some pretty good graphics. That's not going to appear. That's going to appear. There we go. So I did say that this GPU has good graphics, but does it have good views on Discord? Yeah, no it doesn't actually. It's got the worst view of Discord I've ever seen. But it's probably just an issue with my internet. Let me just hit the refresh button on Discord. That's probably the best option to do. Here we go. Yeah, it's just gray. But, Rocket seems fine. Rocket looks like, well, obviously is in space. I never think there's, like, any audio anymore from the stream. I don't know.
Houston, we are at the, well, I am at the displays and we are ready for CM hot fire.
Houston copies. Going in work.
Okay. I assume we're good? Probably. I would assume. It's mainly just, like, static right now. There's nothing important. Just a note, we are pulling this footage off of a Fire Stick. Because of capture card. I am using a capture card to get the NASA footage because then it's less laggy and I don't have to use more GPU. So we're using a Fire Stick. And proof, yeah, we are using a Fire Stick. It's very silent. There's basically nobody talking right now. Should we go to the The live footage of inside. Just the same thing. Now you can see a star going across.
Integrity Houston.
Oh, is
hot
that integrity?
fire complete.
Oh wait,
We
that's
are
just a
assessing.
side note for.
Sounds great. And just per the training, we still see the temps coming up, and everything looks extremely clean on board.
Houston copies.
This is Mission Control Houston, another check mark heading toward entry on the list of things to be accomplished, that being a quick hot fire of the crew module thrusters. This designed just to ensure that the thrusters are in ship-shape form prior to the point at which they will be used for the remainder of the mission. The propulsion system in good shape. The propulsion officer here in Mission Control happy with what he's seeing.
Oh yeah, we got a media group website, so that's what you're currently seeing on screen. At the bottom under the footage there, we got a media group website officially. We also got some new we have new overlays, but I have no idea where the websites are on my phone. So. Oh, footage.
Once again, the report from the propulsion
This one,
officer is that we had a good
the live
fire of
footage
the crew
one.
module thrusters.
This overlay, I have no idea. I don't know.
That sets
I just
us
wanted to
up
show
in good
the
shape for
overlays.
tomorrow.
But it doesn't seem like it wanted to show.
Integrity Houston. We can confirm a
Yes.
good CM RCS hot fire.
There we go. Yep. So we have not been live for 15 minutes, actually. We've been live for more than that, but we'll just start that we've been live for now. That one's not even appearing. That's amazing. I think it was this one. No, it wasn't. Well, I wouldn't want to mess with any of that. But one overlay is kind of, yeah, it needs to pop out of the timer. So yeah, that's who we got the overlays from for free, by the way. They're free if you want to check them out. You couldn't really see it anyway because it's side view right now. We have a list of upcoming streams, which might be what I've moved, actually. I just gotta configure these real quick. Okay, the footage keeps coming out. Yep, that was exactly what I moved. Downside, status 3 is not appearing. Don't know why. Also might be because I don't have it enabled somewhere. I don't know where. Mainly because there's ads on my screen. I can't really do anything about that. Got it. Yep, so the splashdown, we will be streaming all day tomorrow from 7 p.m. All day the splashdown of the rocket will happen on stream. The rocket launch stream's finished. Right now it's the commentary section, and tomorrow all day splashdown.
Houston Integrity for stowage, can you please track that we are going to keep the card readers deployed for a few more hours, please?
Okay, yeah, you can see the all day tomorrow now, okay. So, yeah.
We gotcha.
Now we just need to get live footage, or live chat on screen. Remember, we are sponsored, or not sponsored, but the overlays are from Uno. You can check them out. Never connection was lost. Wait, what? No. We've now been live for more than 3 minutes, but that's when we started the timer, so we're just going to say by 3 minutes. We're going to go by what it says in the corner. But we have not been live for 3 minutes. How long have we been live for? Yeah, we've literally not been live for 3 minutes. But if that's what if that's what it's gonna say, then sure. Again, overlays by Uno. Please, if you have the time and if you want to, you can get your overlays for your stream from Uno. None of these are in pristine HD, I noticed. Like, you can clearly see when I toggle it on from my phone, you can clearly see that it's not very high quality. And they are getting closer and closer to the moon. Or, the Earth. They're getting very close. Very, very close to landing back down. Stream is going to get a little bit of bumpy road here. We're kind of lagging a slight bit. We will be in the clear in a minute.
Control Houston, 7 days, 20 hours, 45 minutes into the flight of Integrity on the lunar flyby mission of Artemis 2. The repositioning of one of the solar array wings on Integrity, giving us a view of the Earth. As it grows larger in the field of view, we're about 4 hours and 45 minutes away from reaching the halfway point of the journey home for Commander Reed Wiseman, pilot Victor Glover, and mission specialists Christina Cook and Jeremy Hansen, following their fly around of the moon that occurred back a couple of days ago. One of the highlights of this mission in this test flight of Orion's spacecraft that will culminate with the splashdown of the astronauts and Integrity in the Pacific southwest of San Diego on Friday night at 7:07 p.m. Central Time, 5:07 p.m. Pacific Time, just 2.5 hours before sunset. The crew is well into its ninth flight day. This is a day that is largely devoted to the stowage of items in the crew cabin, reviewing their flight data file for entry procedures and timelines. They will be witness to another critical burn later this evening, the return trajectory correction burn number 2, that will further fine-tune Integrity's path to reach a corridor over the Pacific Ocean in which they will split the uprights to move across the Pacific into the Earth's atmosphere, descending at a rate of speed that will reach about 32 times the speed of sound for a parachute-assisted splashdown to bring this mission to an end. More details from today's mission management team meeting and status on the flight are coming your way in just about 7.5 minutes at the bottom of the hour at 2:30 p.m. Central, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time with our daily mission status briefing.
Artemis 2 mission is a test mission of the Orion space capsule.
Artemis 2 will be the first time we put humans on this rocket.
We're going back to the moon because it's the next step in our journey to Mars.
We were always going to the moon.
Pushing ourselves to explore is just core to who we are. That's a part of being a human.
And lift off. We shall return.
Continuing to test out every bit of Orion.
Coming back to Earth, 7 miles a second.
When humanity sets big goals, we can bring together genius from around the world.
You have the best people on planet Earth putting this vehicle together.
That's what's up.
To innovate for the benefit of humanity and to inspire the world through discovery.
And here we go.
Good afternoon and welcome to NASA's Johnson Space Center for our final mission status briefing ahead of Artemis 2 splashdown tomorrow evening. We are joined by a panel of specialists today. Joining us is NASA Associate Administrator Amit Shathria, Artemis 2 Flight Director Jeff Radigan, and Artemis 2 Orion Vehicle Manager Breniel Rodriguez. We are going to be taking questions from media here in the room and through our phone bridge today, but before we get started, we will kick it off with some opening remarks. Amit, go ahead.
Good afternoon. Tomorrow evening, Reed, Victor, Christina, and Jeremy, the crew of Artemis 2, will come home. They will have traveled 400,000 miles. They will have seen what no living person has seen. They will have tested every system on the spacecraft and the environment it was built for, and they will have given us 10 days of data that will shape every mission that comes after. The test is not complete. Tomorrow, the Orion spacecraft will enter the Earth's atmosphere at approximately 25,000 miles per hour. That heat shield, the thermal protection system, which is built by American hands and American factories for materials designed to withstand temperatures that approach the surface of the sun, will bear the full force of that reentry. Every system we've demonstrated over the past 9 days, life support, navigation, propulsion, communications, all of it depends on the final minutes of flight. We have high confidence in the system and the heat shield and the parachutes and the recovery systems we put together. The engineering supports it, the Artemis 1 flight data supports it, all of our ground tests supports it, our analysis supports it, and tomorrow the crew is going to put their lives behind that confidence. Until then, the flight control team, the engineering team, the recovery forces in the Pacific, to every engineer, every technician that's touched this machine, tomorrow belongs to you. The crew has done their part. Now we have to do ours. With that, I'll turn it over to Jeff.
Thanks, Amit. I will mention that the crew's had a great time in space, and they've really enjoyed doing all of the checkouts that they've done. Of course, the lunar flyby was quite a day. But now we absolutely turn towards entry. And so Rick Henfling and the entry team are on console today, getting ready, doing all of the pre-entry checks, and ensuring that the cockpit is configured for entry, which will, of course, occur tomorrow. I do have a few times for you as the capsule comes in. Of course, we'll hand back from the DSN network to the ItzDrizzlaMania network at 6:15 local Central Time. And then the crew module and the service module is going to separate around 6:33. We would do a crew module raise burn to take the crew module slightly away from the service module as it comes down. And then we'll enter blackout at 6:53 local Central Time. About 10 minutes later, the drogue chutes will deploy at 7:03, and then the main chutes will be right behind them a minute later, 7:04, and we'll see those three main parachutes come out, leading down to splashdown at 7:07, and looking forward to a great day tomorrow. And with that, I'll hand it over to Breniel.
Thank you, Jeff. So the spacecraft team and the Orion team, we've been doing an assessment over the last few days with an integrated team from flight operations and all of our subject matter experts here within Orion. And we've reviewed all the systems, we've reviewed all the reentry procedures and activities, and we are good to go. And so the team's done an excellent job walking through those, ensuring that those systems on board Orion and on the ground are ready to support. Orion remains healthy. It's been working fantastic. And Debbie showed you some images yesterday of our TPS system, our thermal protection system. And we completed those assessments and everything looks really, really well to continue on. So we're ready to go inside the vehicle, the spacecraft systems. It's a nice 75 degrees, so kind of like a winter day in Houston. And it's crew's loving it. So everything is looking really well from the vehicle standpoint. Thank you.
All right, we'll start with questions here in the room. Please raise your hand if you have a question. Eric.
Eric Berger, Ars Technica. Thanks for doing this. Question for either Amit or Jeff, I think. Back a little more than a decade ago, the Curiosity mission had its 7 minutes of terror. And I'm not trying to imply anything, but I want to get a sense of the 13 minutes of entry from entry interface to splashdown of how we should be thinking about it. That's the 13 minutes of what?
I mean, I'm going to tell you, it's 13 minutes of things that have to go right, is the way I think about it. I have a whole checklist in my head that we're going through of all the things that have to happen. The forward bay cover has to come off. The drogues have to come out. The main chutes have to deploy. The reefing systems have to cut. And we have to get touchdown angle alignment correct and then hit the water correctly. And even prior to that, right, we've got the CMSM SEP separation between the service module and the crew module. That has to go right. And then you have the heat shield that has to work. So it's not so much 13 minutes. It's more, in my head, about an hour and a half of things that have to go right. And that's the way I think of them.
Okay, we'll take another question here in the room. Jackie, go ahead.
Hi there. Question, I think, for Jeff. I just wanted to check in. Yesterday, it seemed like the schedule moved around quite a bit as they were troubleshooting. I think it was an oxygen tank pressurization issue in the service module. Can you walk us through what that issue is, how long it's been a concern, and whether or not it's a, big factor here that's outstanding? Thank you.
Sure. So it's actually not an oxygen tank issue. It's oxidizer. It's in the propulsion system, not in the breathable atmosphere system. And so it's one of our two-part propulsion system, which allows us to burn in space. We are seeing what is a small leak in our pressurant system. The leak is not to space. It's internal to the system, across some of our valves. And we really need to characterize that to see what, if any, modifications we might need to make in the future. And so we had some time on the timeline dedicated to some other activities, right? Having the crew pilot the vehicle again. And it made more sense for us to go ensure that we fully understood the characterization of the service module and the pressurization system, because we don't get the service module back, right? It's something that we jettison. So, we all thought, right? Flight control team, working in conjunction with our mission management team, and of course our engineering teams, made the decision to go spend more time to characterize that situation because it was more important, and we'd already gotten the data out of the manual piloting demos that we'd previously had. So that's why we changed the timeline and ensured we could really characterize the vehicle.
Okay, we'll take our next question from Marcia. Go ahead.
Marcia Dunn, Associated Press for you, Ahmed. I know all the data and all the analyses points the way for a safe splashdown tomorrow, but still human emotion must be at play. How tense, stressed are you? So much is riding on this mission. All eyes will be, so focused on all this tomorrow around the world.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no question that we'll all be anxious, and but we'll be with the families. We'll be with them. We'll all be together. I have full confidence in the team. They do too. That we've been with them the whole time, and so we've done the work. It's impossible to say you don't have irrational fears left, right? But I'd tell you I don't have any rational fears about what's going to happen. We've done the work we need to, and we have full confidence in the team, the recovery team, the flight control team, the analysis, and the work we did. Yeah, some of them. Yeah.
Okay, we'll take our next question from Irene.
Irene Plotz with Aviation Week, probably for Amit. At this point in the mission, how many in-flight anomalies have been are pending for action after splashdown? And compared to the list of objectives that you laid out for this whole mission, and realize you still have this very major part of it ahead, but how satisfied are you with that the mission objectives have been accomplished?
Well, Brittany, I'll talk about the details, but I'll tell you the team has extracted every ounce of test data we can out of it. I'm very pleased with the coordination, the way that we've added objectives in flight, and the way we prioritize, like Jeff said, on on cases where we need actual forensic data on the hardware we're getting back versus not. So we prioritize that the right way. But Brynjol, you want to talk through that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. As far as the things that we've learned, right, it is a test flight, and so we are learning things on the spacecraft. I think we've talked several of them in these press conferences as we have, but we gather those data, as Jeff noted. We take characterization tests of systems that we won't get back home, and when we get back home and the vehicle comes back, we'll do a lot of post-processing of all that data.
Okay, we'll take one more question here in the room, then head to the phone bridge. Go ahead.
Hi, TG Mascaro with the Epoch Times. Thanks so much, and congratulations on the mission so far. Question for Jeff. Can you walk us through how this reentry procedure differs from that of Apollo?
Let's see. In terms of, it actually doesn't differ all that much in terms of just how fast we're coming back and how much has to go right. Of course, there are some minor timeline differences. The parachute systems are different between the two vehicles, but big picture coming back from the moon is all really close to the same thing. You don't have the long coasting arcs that you have in low Earth orbit. You're really coming straight down and coming and hitting the atmosphere a whole lot faster, but that means you go through it a whole lot faster too. And so, I'd say it parallels Apollo much more than it does some of our low Earth orbit returns, and that's really what we're looking forward to. They're coming home pretty fast.
We'll take our next question on the phone bridge from Ken Chang with the New York Times.
Hi, thank you. I guess I'm following up on the previous question. So with the lofted orbit, it comes up a bit, and Apollo had direct reentry, and Artemis 1 had the skip entry. So I guess it seems like it'd be somewhere in the middle. If you can just give a few more details. Thank you.
Yeah, Ken, so we are still doing a skip entry where we've shortened the duration of the skip because of the limited use disposition of this particular heat shield. We know that it can tolerate X amount of dwell time during the lofted period, which is why we're shortening the duration. To follow up a little bit on the previous question too, one of the reasons we were willing to do that is because we figured we could control the entry weather, or not control, but deal with entry weather in terms of the downtrack. And so the duration of the heat load, heat rate, as well as the actual downtrack is shorter because that's the part of the environment that we decided to control with this particular instance of the heat shield. For future heat shields, we'll have much longer skip capability.
Our next question is from Noah Haggerty with the Los Angeles Times.
Hi, thanks. I'm wondering if there's any chance folks in San Diego along the coast will be able to see reentry, and what the exclusion zones and enforcement will look like out in the ocean for anyone that hopes to travel via boat to watch reentry and splashdown.
Let's see. So the path that we're coming in, I don't expect it to be visible from the folks in California. And as far as the exclusion zone, we're pretty far off the coast. And of course, we're working in conjunction with the Department of War to recover the capsule out there, and it is a fairly large exclusion zone. So I would caution folks, please avoid the area. There's a lot of debris that comes down, and we work with our recovery forces in order to ensure that it doesn't hit them. But of course, we don't want it to hit anyone else. We are still targeting to come down at our primary landing site, and we have the weather alternates available. But it's further off the coast than, again, some of your, the LEO deorbits that you've seen.
We'll take our next question from Nell with NPR.
Hey, thanks so much for doing this. I'm still trying to understand the oxygen pressurization issue. You mentioned something about it was with the propellant system. I'm wondering, does this have anything to do with anything that might be involved in reentry? I mean, I understand you're assessing it because you're going to lose that part of the spacecraft and it won't be returned, but is there anything related to that that's at all of concern related to reentry? Thank you.
I appreciate your question, and just to clarify again, right, this is actually in the helium pressurization system of the oxidizer, which, of course, our service module propulsion system works on fuel and oxidizer and combining those together to provide thrust. In terms of affecting reentry, It will not. We still have capability in the spacecraft and are operating in a case where all of our burns have performed nominally. They've done exactly what we've expected to. Of course, we performed return trajectory correction burn 1 a couple of days ago, and it went just fine. We hit our targets, and we're actually seeing that our targets are very close to what we predicted, so our correction burns don't need to be as much as we had protected for, which is a good thing to note. We're doing another trajectory correction tonight, and then there'll be the final one tomorrow before entry. All of those are done actually without the pressurization system that we're characterizing. We're operating in a case where we're in blowdown, which means that we already have full pressure in the prop tanks to be able to perform these burns. Even if we had, a 3 sigma dispersion, we still have plenty of prop pressurization to do the burns. So we don't see any impact to entry at this time. And of course, we will, jettison the service module, and that's where the system is. And of course, the crew module jets that we'll use actually on reentry are unaffected at this time.
Yeah, and to add to that, Jeff, there's multiple layers and redundancy in our propulsion system. And so really the test yesterday was to help us characterize that information since we don't receive the service module back home. But we have reviewed that as a technical team. We have validated all of that in our labs, and we have very much confidence in the system.
We'll take another question on the phone and then head back into the room. Our next question is from Micah Maidenberg with the Wall Street Journal.
Thanks. Amit, you spent a lot of time over the last 2 or 2.5 years working on the heat shield and the reentry plan that will be rolling out tomorrow. I'm curious if you ever went through this effort and the new trajectory, directly with the crew's families, and did you feel like that session, if it happened, was able to resolve any worries they might have had? Did anybody else outside of the crew themselves from NASA sort of talk through the mitigation for tomorrow? Thanks so much.
Yeah, we haven't gone into deep technical detail. At least I have not with the families directly. I know that I will tell you though that from day one, since I started in the program and then was just right before they named this crew, we have been talking to the crew about this problem the whole time, and they've been with us in the investigation. They've been with us on the production improvements that were made, all the changes to entry procedures. So they were not just doing what we were telling them to do. They co-created this solution with us. So they've been lashed up. I imagine they've discussed with their loved ones what the risks are. They've talked about that through all phases of flight, through entry, through ascent, every single piece of it. So I know that they're well prepared. And I would tell you though that it's not said a lot, but the courage that the families show during these missions is as great as or equal to what the crew shows when they go fly. And so we all have to admire them for that.
We'll take our next question in the room. Go ahead.
Thanks. Joey Roulette with Reuters. Question for Amit or whoever wants to answer. I'm just curious to hear more about how the astronauts are feeling ahead of what's probably the riskiest part of the mission. Are they asking questions, technical questions, or anything else? And Jeff, I want to just hear a little bit more about the oxidizer issue, if you could describe the leak rate or what risk level this poses to the crew, if any, and how many valves are implicated in it. Thanks.
Yeah, I think I'll let Jeff or Braniel kind of talk about the crew spirits. I know they've been on the radio and they're pretty chipper. So, but what you gonna tell them?
Well, I think when we talk about the managing the emotions on orbit and managing that through every day of flight, they're all a little bit different, right? And when you talk to the crew, some days we get to the conference at the end of the day, and we're talking technical items, we're talking technical things, we're talking about what happens tomorrow. And some days it's there's very little to talk about in terms of technical items, but it's hey, here's how we're feeling, here's how we're doing. They were very happy to get some time off after the lunar flyby. The lunar flyby was a long day. I'm sure you all heard them on the radios, constantly that day. It was a long, taxing day for them, and they were happy to get a little bit rest the following day. So every day of the mission, especially with a mission this short, and it's so packed full of all of the operations that we're doing, it's its own kind of thing to manage. And now as they get into entry, we're talking through. They've got conferences today with the entry flight control team, and we're ensuring that we're getting them ready in a good emotional state so that they can execute. Right? They're very technically savvy. Just as Amit said, we've built this plan with them. There's nothing new that they're learning, but we're all reviewing together and make sure we're well positioned to fly entry tomorrow. And I'll take the technical topic and hand that over to Branielle.
Thanks, Jeff. Regarding the propulsion system, so there's multiple valves in each string of the propulsion system and multiple strings providing that redundancy. So we worked a test plan to safely characterize what we're seeing and validate the data that we're getting down. And the team's going to go off and look at that and determine, based on what they're seeing, the thermal effects associated with the attitudes that we're flying in, and be able to come back with us post-mission with an investigation update.
What are they seeing, though? Let me just make this clear. So we're leaking helium into the pressure system, into the aux system. There's a series of solenoid valves that are protecting that. We actually accepted this risk pre-flight because we had a low leak rate of helium on the valve closest to the prop system. We accepted it because we didn't need the performance for the pressure system. As Jeff said, we can do a lot of the burns just with the ullage pressure in the tank, and for a free return trajectory, don't need it. We could have done the whole mission without at least after TLI, could have done the whole mission without helium pressurant. However, we are not getting the valves back. We know it. We have leaky valves to begin with, and we want to make sure we're characterizing that leak rate as well as we can. The leak rate we saw in flight is now an order of magnitude higher than what we saw on the ground. It's still acceptable, but that will lead us to probably an extensive redesign of that valve system. I don't need those valves to hold pressure in the same way for a LEO orbiting mission, but for a lunar orbit mission, I do. I need all the performance in the system so I can pressurize, which is why we prioritize that side of the valves.
Okay, we'll take our next question right here.
Hi, Josh Dinner, space.com. I'd like to follow up on Joey's question a little bit about how the crew is feeling. Most astronaut missions to space these days are quite longer than 10 days. Do you get the impression that there is any sort of bittersweet feeling about how soon their mission is coming to a close, even though they are hyper-focused on their task ahead? Another question, can you clarify why San Francisco, the coast of San Francisco, was chosen over other landing locations like the Gulf or the Atlantic?
It's San Diego, so it's near Naval Base San Diego, which is we like them. They help us. So that's why. It's because proximity to where they do fleet operations, which too, we also climatologically, those waters are pretty calm. And so we do a lot of recovery operations there. In terms of how they're feeling, I mean, like you've heard them. They're it's interesting. I really want them to answer this question when they come back because the ranges of emotions are crazy for them. But, they are some of the most thoughtful, incredible people that I've ever known. And even some of the moments I think a lot of folks have thought about, just what you've seen them, the expressions of love and, devotion to family and what they've shown, to me is a great, example of why we go and do these missions, right? If you can't take love to the stars, then what are we doing? Like, why would we even go? And so that's why we send humans. That's instead of robots sometimes, that's where we have that firsthand witness. And so they're going to go through a whole range of just like we have watching them. And I think that's the whole point, is that we can share that experience.
Okay, we'll take our next question right here.
Thank you. Dr. Allison McGraw from Mysterious Meteorites here in Houston, Texas. In addition to the real-time data coming from the Orion spacecraft, will there be any ground systems used, say radar or really rapid telescopes? Thank you.
Let's see, in terms of gathering data from reentry, I'm trying to understand your question. Yeah, so we have a whole set of actually aircraft that we're going to use to gather data off the spacecraft as it comes down in. And then once it gets back, of course, we're recording data on board that we don't get down on the ground in real time. And we'll use all of that information that we record on board at a much higher rate than we can actually pass it down through our communication systems to be able to ensure we fully understand what occurred.
Okay, go ahead.
Mark Kirkman with NSF. I'd like to follow up a little bit more on the entry, just a smidge. This is probably for Jeff, but commentary eloquently put it that we're doing the correction burns to split the uprights. Can you define that flight path angle that we're aiming for and what the consequences are of not what bounds out in the consequences of not being at the correct flight path angle at entry interface? And also, can somebody summarize the plan for assessing the TPS right away after splashdown, what the timeline looks like and how you'll plan to get that data?
Let's see. So in terms of the flight path angle, I mean, it's quite simple. You have to hit it, or the TPS, we don't expect it will be successful, quite frankly. We have to hit the flight path angle accurately. And what we're doing over the next day and a half is ensuring that all of our correction burns, which are very small and calculated to be very small right now, get us exactly on that angle, right? We've got about less than a degree of angle that we need to hit. And when we come in, we need to be right in the center of that. Obviously, we've got a little bit of wiggle room. We don't plan to use that. Our guidance is working very well right now. All of our trajectory calculations are showing that the vehicle is on almost the best path it could be, and that our correction burns are very small this evening and then tomorrow. But we have to, let's not beat around the bush. We have to hit that angle correctly. Otherwise, we're not going to have a successful reentry.
And then part of your second question, we actually have our thermal protection experts on the vehicle, on the ship that is with the team as a part of the recovery. They have a plan in place to do extensive imagery of the TPS system, our heat shield, upon it getting back into the well deck of the ship. And then, of course, once it gets back on dock and at Naval Base San Diego, we'll do more imagery before it gets transported back to KSC, where we can continue on getting additional insight into it.
Okay, we'll take our next question right here. Go ahead.
Thank you. Jackie Goddard for the Times of London. Could somebody please clarify the peak heating, peak temperature, the peak velocity, because the miles an hour are jarring a little with what Rick said yesterday in terms of the feet per second, and also what will the astronauts feel, see, and hear on the way down? Thank you.
Let's see. So in terms of the numbers, we'll have to get you that. I don't have those specifically off the top of my head, and I know Rick gave them to you in the units that we generally use, but we'll be sure to get those to you. In terms of what the astronauts are going to feel and hear, they're going to feel and hear when all the various chutes deploy, and when the forward bay cover comes off, all of the pyrotechnic events that are part of a nominal entry, descent, and landing sequence. They're going to hear them, they're going to feel them, and it's actually, I think, going to be a fun ride for them. They're looking forward to hearing and feeling them, by the way. We did our checkout of the crew module propulsion system a little earlier today, and when we actuated the valves to actually prime the system, of course, they're waiting inside the capsule, just waiting to hear that, knock of it sounds a little bit like a wrench on the spacecraft. And that means that the valve actuated successfully, and that's what they're looking forward to. So, they're looking forward to what they're going to hear, and they'll be able to tell you all about it when they get home.
And we actually had on Artemis 1, we had a video during reentry where you could hear the acoustics inside the spacecraft, and I think that's been shared externally, and so it's been a helpful contributor to know what to experience for Artemis 2.
Okay, we'll take another here in the room and then head to our phone bridge. Go ahead.
Hi, Ed Lavandera with CNN. Thank you for the time today, and good luck tomorrow. I'd love to know how much of the piloting will Victor Glover be doing? How much of the control of the capsule will you guys have in mission control? What's the balance there, just to kind of understand the logistics of how that plays out during reentry?
So during reentry, the vehicle's piloting itself, and we have closed-loop control guidance on board that's going to be piloting the vehicle down to the ground. If there is it's actually multiple failures to get into a case where the crew is going to pilot the vehicle. Were we to have those multiple failures, which of course we don't anticipate, there is the opportunity for the crew to take control. I will tell you that when we've worked with them ahead of time, they're very concerned with cases where they would have to take control. This is not a system where you want to be manually piloting it yourself. You'd rather let the computer pilot the spacecraft, and that's what they're going to go do. But of course, they can take control if they absolutely had to, but we don't expect that to be the case.
Okay, we'll take our next question on the phone bridge from Megan with Scientific American.
Hi there, Megan Bartels from Scientific American. Thanks so much for taking this question. I think this is for Jeff. Thank you for the timeline updates at the top. I really appreciate that. And I wanted to ask about crew extraction. From what I understand, that's about an hour after splashdown. And I just wanted to understand why the delay, what will be happening during that hour-long procedure, and then if you could provide a little bit more detail on the rationale for the order of extraction, that would also be great. Thanks so much.
So, in the moments after the vehicle hits the water, there's a number of things that, the crew has to do on board. There's a number of systems that we have to begin an orderly shutdown, and the crew then has to orient themselves and, begin safing the spacecraft so they can open the hatch. And that takes a little bit of time. In parallel, of course, the recovery forces and Lily, our recovery director, are bringing the recovery forces closer to the capsule. They do have to stay out, a fair number of miles because there's debris that comes, of course, our drogues that are coming off the spacecraft, the forward bay cover, as I mentioned earlier. We don't want any of that to land on our recovery forces, so we do have a certain amount of time that will take to ensure that we don't put any of our recovery forces at risk. Once we confirm that there's no risk to the recovery forces, which takes a matter of minutes, then they're able to approach the spacecraft and begin the process of extracting the crew. That's not it's not a short process, but it takes about 30, 45 minutes is what we've seen in calm seas. And of course, we are expecting good weather at this point, but it takes a little bit of time to get the recovery forces into the capsule and then help the crew to get out of the capsule and onto the front porch, which is the flotation part of the recovery forces that actually attaches to the spacecraft. So it just takes a little bit of time. We need to do this calmly and methodically, and that's the way it goes. So that's why it takes time. Like any operation, you have to spend the right amount of time to make sure we do it successfully. As far as order goes, that's really left up to the recovery forces. It'll depend on the crew, the specific crew, and how they're doing. And, Lily and her team will manage that as it comes.
Okay, our next question is from Marcia Smith with spacepolicyonline.com.
Thanks so much for taking my question. And it's actually a follow-on to that. Could you talk about what debris is going to be coming off and falling into the ocean, and over what distance is it going to fall? And are you going to try and recover any of it other than the parachutes?
Yeah, I'll try and take a shot at that one. So when the crew module comes back in, the forward bay cover, which is the very top of the crew module, actually comes off, and that pulls out your first set of parachutes. And we have kind of 3 sets of parachutes that come out. And so as each one of those pull off, they get released. And so that is kind of what the debris that Jeff's talking about that falls into the zone that is the kind of the keep out zone that the team has out in the water. We do try and recover best effort. Crew is priority, so crew will always be done first. But the teams out there and the assets out there do look and try and recover, for example, our parachutes if they're able to, but not critical. We have a slew of test data to support all the things that we have seen. So hope that got all the questions there.
All right, we'll take another on the phone and then head back into the room. Our next question is from Lauren Grush with Bloomberg.
Hi, thank you so much for taking my question. I believe this is for Amit. I just want to clarify your response about the leaking valves. Just to be clear, you said that you ultimately will need to do an extensive redesign of the system for future lunar orbital missions. And do you have a sense of how long that might take? Is it too early to understand how that might impact the schedule for Artemis missions moving forward?
I think we're pretty convinced that we'll need to do the redesign. In terms of timing, I'm convinced this will not be the pacing item for a lunar mission, so we'll be able to fix it in the time we need to. Might take a little while, but we have to get it right, and also we want to make sure we do the right amount of tests. So, but yeah, pretty sure we're going to need to, at a minimum, tweak the design to prevent the leak rate that we have, if not fundamentally change the way the valve works. But we'll have to go do that properly.
Okay, we'll take our next question in the room. Will, go ahead.
Hi, Will Robinson Smith with Spaceflight Now. Thank you all for taking the time one last time. Just to follow up on Lauren's question, the European service module for Artemis 4 is already at the Kennedy Space Center right now. Do you imagine that it would need to go back to Airbus in Germany for this work to be done, or can technicians come to the Cape and get that work done in Florida? Thanks.
Yeah, I think we can do it there. It just depends on what logistically makes the most sense from a production and access standpoint. So we'll just have to go through that. Yeah, I don't know, but I imagine we have options.
Okay, we'll take our next question here. Go ahead.
This is Henry Gass from the Christian Science Monitor. Thank you for doing this. My question, I know you're all very focused on tomorrow, and it's a big day, and you're focused on wrapping up Artemis 2. I'm wondering if, Artemis 3 is not that far away as we stand now. Are there any preparations for that have begun, or can you tell us anything about that?
So if you just go down the road here, there's a Mark 1 Blue Origin lander that just came out of Chamber A. That's getting shipped back to Florida. I know that folks in Boca Chica are getting the Block 3 Starship ready to roll. They've done cryoproofing. They're going to do static fires here shortly in April and hopefully get off relatively soon. Core Stage 3, the top 4 fits of Core Stage 3 are going to ship from Michoud on the 20th of April. The booster aft segments for Artemis 3 are already at Kennedy. As we talked earlier, the Orion, the Dash 3 Orion, the CM and the SM are still separated, but the new heat shield, which has been redesigned to tolerate those new conditions, is also assembled and ready to go. We just have to make those segments and go. And so we're yes, in earnest, proceeding as quickly as we can. The mobile launcher, one, did not sustain, does not require the kind of refurb that we need. So we already moved the crawler transporter up to Pad B, and we're going to bring the ML back into the VAB hopefully by the end of next week and get on with it.
Okay, we'll take our next question in the room. Go ahead.
Hi, JJ Love with Tech Talk Media. Thanks so much for doing this. I want to ask, what is the single biggest thing that you would want the people of Earth taking away from this mission? And that's for anyone.
Wow, that's a tall order. Single biggest thing. There's so much, right? There's so much that we've done on this mission and so many things to share. I look at, all of the crew's reaction on flyby day, all of the snippets that they shared with us, the imagery, the videos, and it just makes you want to continue to go back, right? I think that they said it best. This isn't the trip, it's the first of many trips. And we just need to continue on because there's so much there. Think about how much we thought we knew what was going on and we thought we knew what the moon looked like, and now we see it a totally different way. I think we're going to see that on the next mission to the moon as well, and we just need to keep going.
Okay, we'll take 2 more here in the room and then head back to our phone bridge. Go ahead.
Hi. Question about the astronauts' schedule for the next few hours or next day or so. Just wondering, are they going to have the ability to talk to their family? Do they have a last meal aboard Orion they plan to eat? What are their activities before they actually get set up for that splashdown?
So I'll tell you right now, they're really focused on ensuring that the cabin is completely configured for entry. There's a number of things that they have to do. They have to pack all of the equipment that they brought out for operating the spacecraft and get their suits out. They have to get the seats out, and it just takes a fair amount of time to reconfigure the cabin. Of course, they are sending messages to their families, and there's always a last meal anywhere you're at, but it's more of it's time to eat and be ready to go. It's not necessarily a symbolic thing. But it's something that they'll do together, and I don't want to give you any impression other than they're focused on ensuring that they have a successful reentry, and I'm sure they'll take a special moment to themselves, but our focus with them is a successful splashdown tomorrow.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Michael Adkison, Houston Public Media. Question for Jeff. You talked about the checklist that you're going to have. I'm wondering if you could characterize what it's going to feel like in mission control tomorrow, specifically in that 6-minute blackout period.
Yeah, I think, again, we're going to be thinking through all of the things that we know is happening on board, but that we can't see, right? And so, in order to keep myself calm, because I think, as Amit mentioned earlier, there's all of that irrational fear that is human nature in some ways. I'll be going through what I know is going on board and saying, okay, it's this time, this switch is actuating, it's this time, I know these valves are firing, it's this time, I know that we're this many minutes away from the parachutes and the clock's ticking down, and I'm sure that's what I'll be doing to keep myself calm. Rick Henfling's the flight director in charge, and I need to make sure that I stay out of his way. We all have to make sure that we stay out of his way and let him and his team work. And we'll just be, thinking through the things that will keep ourselves calm as we wait for reacquisition of signal.
Okay, we'll take our next question on the phone bridge from Christopher Mick with the Hudson Star Observer.
Thank you so much. Sincere thank you to you all for the information and to all the PAOs on the live stream. It's been very informative every day, so appreciate it. I believe this might be for Amit. I know we're nearing the end of these daily briefings, and I wanted to know if we could just look ahead to what the astronauts schedule. I know historically there's extensive post-flight mission debriefs and medical evaluations and media requests for interviews after that. I was wondering, since we're not going to be getting these daily updates, if you might just paint us a picture of what the month after landing will look like for the crew, their kind of rough daily activities.
I think maybe Courtney might be the most qualified to answer that one, so.
Yes, so they will go through some medical checks, some debriefs, and we do plan to talk to the crew in a crew news conference where you will all be invited within the first 2 weeks after splashdown, and then they will hopefully begin all of their appearances and tours starting at about the R+30 mark. So we look forward to seeing them back here on Earth and getting that schedule underway. Our next question is from David Denault with About Space Today News.
My question, a little bit later today, I understand the astronauts are going to be trying on the orthostatic intolerance garment. Now, I kind of understand what that does, but is this something new created for Artemis? And would you embellish a little bit more beyond just it's going to adjust the body?
Let's see. So I think you're talking about the orthostatic garment that we actually tried out yesterday, and we had the crew put them on to test out and ensure we had a good fit. This is really the first layer of their suit that they put on here, and we'll put on tomorrow for reentry. And so the goal there is to make sure that we have a good suit fit, that we're getting all the pressure on the human body in the right ways to be able to come in and have a successful landing.
Okay, our next question is from Manuel with Exploración Especial.
Thank you so much. Manuel Masanti with Exploración Espacial. I was wondering how far into the entry phase are we going to continue enjoying the live views from the service model? Are we going to be able to see the separation between the capsule and the service model tomorrow? Thank you.
I didn't hear most of that.
I didn't. Was your question? Are we going to be able to see the separation between the service module and the crew module?
Correct. Yes. If you're going to enjoy that live.
So we are going to set up our cameras to try and see some of that on board, and of course we'll see that in the data coming down from the vehicle that has occurred. I don't expect that we'll be able to see that visually at the time it occurs.
Okay, we'll take some more questions here in the room. Let's go right over here.
Robert Coppinger from the British Interplanetary Society's Spaceflight magazine. The crew module for Artemis 2, will it be refurbished and reused for a future Artemis mission?
It's possible. There's some components we might use. The pressure vessel will probably be compromised, but Brunel, I don't know what the current reuse.
Yeah, so we'll be bringing the vehicle back. There are a significant number of components within the module that we'll be pulling out to reutilize it, and then if going forward from there, we'll see what we need to do.
Okay, we'll take our next question here. Go ahead.
Thank you, and thanks for doing this. Tom Clark from Sky News in the UK. We now understand the crew are not going to exceed the Apollo 10 re-entry speed record. Is that actually an advantage to you? Was that something you've tried to build in to reduce their speed of re-entry, given we expected it to be pretty fast? Is the fact they're going to re-enter the atmosphere at 1,000 miles an hour slower useful to you?
I mean, we did because of the way we characterized the heat shield problem, the interaction between the material and the aerothermal loads in the environment, it is actually advantageous for the heat shield to ablate more quickly. You avoid the regions where You have essentially pyrolysis going on in the heat shield, the burning without oxygen, but then the creation of those pyrolysis gases when you don't have a receding front for ablation. Like if you're in that config, that's the condition we're trying to avoid. And so by sharpening the entry, you actually can keep that ablation front moving while that gas production is happening. There will be a little bit of dwell period, but there are other things you trade. I mean, you might argue that want to just go as fast as possible, while there's other parts of the vehicle you care about, maintaining different envelope constraints. And so it was very specific in the way we dialed in the entry heat load and heat rate.
Okay, Irene, go ahead.
Sorry if I missed this, but how many miles off the coast of San Diego is the targeted splashdown site?
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. It's I believe it's a couple hundred miles, but we'll have to get
too many for anyone to want to go and hang out.
That's the key.
Okay, it looks like we have another question right over here.
Hi, Dan Lenan from the Naval Postgraduate School. I have a couple status questions. In terms of the LRO images of the Artemis spacecraft when it was going by the moon, do you have any updates on whether those were successful? Also, what actually happens to the service module? Is it going to be part of the debris? I wasn't sure if that was going to be also burning up or coming down. And then how about the weather? What's the latest on the weather?
So let's go in reverse order. The weather's looking good. And we expect not to have an impact to recovery operations. There is some weather moving in after we land and have the recovery of the crew complete. And so, of course, Lily, our recovery director, and with the captain of the ship, will be figuring out exactly when to get the crew off the ship and back to the naval base. They'll have to take a look at what that timing is. And of course, we expect them back here sometime on Saturday.
Okay, anyone?
Service module?
So the service module, it'll actually re-enter Earth's atmosphere and burn up. So it is part of the debris, and we keep that as part of the keep-out zone. Can't remember the first question.
I haven't seen any of the reports from LRO yet, so we'll have to investigate.
Anyone in the room here still have a question? Okay, Jackie, we'll go ahead and go back to you.
Thanks. Yeah, one quick follow-up for you on the oxidization, pressurization. Were there any signs of this also in Artemis 1? Can you remind us, and what went into that decision to kind of just assume this risk heading into flight? Thanks.
Artemis 1, we didn't. We knew we had PCA leakage in the helium side. Again, given the Artemis 1 mode, we decided, like in distant retrograde insertion as well as the rest of it, we could tolerate it. The big difference here is we did the TLI burn with the Orion, like as opposed to the ICPS. So that, I'm not sure that that's related. It just so happens that that's when we saw the leak increase. It probably is related somehow. But Branielle, did any more details on 1?
I'd have to go back and get the data on 1. I apologize. I just don't remember.
Yeah, but we did, Jackie, we accepted the risk for 2 just because the leak was small enough and we knew we had plenty of pressurization volume to go deal with. We didn't see it as a common design feature across all the different valves. It was isolated to that one particular one. And with the mode we had picked for free return, we didn't need the performance. And so.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, right? We designed the mission to be able to tolerate this type of failure. And we baked that into how we designed the mission with the low Earth orbit, the high Earth orbit, and then their free return trajectory. So it's something that for multiple reasons could have occurred, and we were prepared for it ahead of time.
Okay, go ahead.
TG Muscaro with the Epoch Times. Thanks for the second question. One more for you, Jeff. When you sign off from your shift tomorrow, do you have anything you're going to say? Any final words to the flight director you're going to pass off to or off to the crew?
Well, so a couple of thoughts for you. One, I'm actually, I've completed my shifts. I do not have any more shifts here for Artemis 2. And I'll tell you, I signed off the same way I always do, which is go get some sleep and we'll see you tomorrow, because we're not done on this mission. We've got another day and a half. And, that's when we can start celebrating, is when we have a crew safely in the med bay of the ship. And, that's really when we can allow the emotions to take over and start talking about success. We need to have the crew home before we do that. Rick Henfling will be the flight director on console. I imagine he'll have some words for all of us, but really we're just focused on getting the crew home, and then we can start thinking about celebrating.
Eric, go ahead.
Eric Berger, Ars Technica again. Probably for Amit, just about the pressurization valves. I think we're all kind of asking questions. You know, we're non-technical people mostly here in the room, and so we're just trying to understand sort of the seriousness. I think we all understand that this is not a constraint or an issue at all for this mission. You talked about how Artemis 3, you don't need the performance, but you do for Artemis 4. You know, when I hear about propulsion valves, I get a little nervous because it's an important part of the system, and they often are issues with them. And so just help us understand, like, is this like a review on the scale of the heat shield after Artemis 1, or do you think it's like a significantly less serious problem to address? Just kind of help us understand the magnitude.
That's fair. It is not. It's not. You know, there are a lot of options for how to take care of this problem. I think if anything, I'd characterize it as a production redesign risk for the Artemis 4 mission, which I think we can get in front of, and which is why we put so much attention on it during the mission, to make sure what we're seeing, because the sizes of the leaks we've seen in the past are not this large after the burn. And so if we know that this is, no kidding, a different piece of data that's outside the range of our current understanding, that pushes us more quickly into, hey, let's get the redesign started now so we avoid the production risk. It's not a safety of flight, safety of crew, must-work function like the heat shield investigation sent us down. And it's going to take work to get it right, but it's not of that magnitude.
Okay, we'll take our last question from Marcia. Go ahead.
Marcia Dunn, Associated Press. I wanted to clarify that the immediate families will be watching for mission control for entry and splashdown. Is that correct?
That is my understanding, yes.
And they'll be reunited when the crew gets back to Houston?
Yeah, whenever the team that supports them makes sense,
okay,
yep.
Thanks.
All right, that's all the time we have for today. Our special coverage of Artemis 2 splashdown begins tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. Central Time, ahead of splashdown at 7:07 p.m. Central Time. We look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow. Thanks for joining.
Houston integrity, is there anything we can do to help your efficiency here? We can execute some steps from 2.2.1.
Hey, Reed, we are just a couple of commands away from getting everything squared away for you.
Roger that. Thank you.
Integrity Houston, for PCD connectivity, we have not seen PCD2 reconnected to the network. If you can please check PCD2.
Okay, we will get on that. And for a crew that has asked for only lower cabin fan speeds this entire mission, we are very happy to have what we have right now. Thank you.
We see PCD2 on the network and silver linings.
Okay, great, thanks.
This is Mission Control, Houston. 7 days, 21 hours, 52 minutes into the flight of Integrity on the Artemis II mission. Aboard the vehicle, the 4 crew members, Commander Reed Wiseman, Pilot Victor Glover, and mission specialists Christina Cook and Jeremy Hansen are busy stowing the crew cabin in preparation for tomorrow's return to Earth and breaking out the flight data file for a bit of study on all the procedures and timeline activities that will accompany their return to Earth for a splashdown in the Pacific at 7:07 p.m. Central Time, 5:07 p.m. Pacific Time on Friday night. While we were in the mission's status briefing about 18 minutes ago, there was a smoke alarm that was enunciated on board, ultimately attributed to the crew beginning to pack up items in the crew cabin. It is believed that all that happened was the stirring up of some dust that the sensitive smoke detectors in the crew cabin picked up on, and in the conservative calibration that those sensors are placed in, enunciated that alarm. There is no smoke, there's no issue with the vehicle, but we thought that we would play for you.
Integrity Houston for cabin config.
Go ahead.
A probably wrong subject line there, but while we try to cool off the cabin temperature a bit, we have elected to turn off OFF the cabin leak detection, just to avoid any further enunciations there. And once things stabilize, we will re-enable it, and we'll let you know when that's the case. Your edge key still works.
Okay, copy that.
Once again, while we were in the mission status briefing and the crew was beginning to tidy up the crew cabin, they apparently kicked up some dust, which triggered smoke detection, enunciation in the cabin, a smoke alarm, if you will. There was no smoke. There was no indication of any anomalous behavior on any of the environmental control systems on board integrity. But we wanted to play for you the clip of the exchange between Commander Reed Wiseman and spacecraft communicator Jackie Mahaffey during that 3-minute or so period of time in which we were evaluating the systems on board integrity. Here's the clip.
Integrity Houston, we copy your call and we see the messages. We'll sync up when you're ready.
We are ready.
Okay, Reed, we'll take a quick report from your perspective on what you heard and saw and your conclusion on NAMA.
Okay, we're powering up the AGA right now. I'll let you know when it is up. Just from our perspective inside the cabin, we are 100% nominal operations. We are just gathering to start studying entry prep. Do you see any indications on the ground?
Yeah, Reed, we did see a large spike in the smoke detector data. However, it does appear to be normalizing. It does look a little different than the signatures that we've seen previously during the
cabin entry config. We are kicking up a fair amount of particulate. I wouldn't say there's a lot of dust in here, but I'm just looking around and there's a fair amount in here. So if it was simply a smoke detector detection, I think we are good. We did not manually initiate that.
Understand all, and we'll stand by when you have an AGA reading. We'll take it.
I know we need to wait 5 minutes, but right now all indications are off scale low. CO2 is 3.2, O2 is 21.3, temperature is 76.7, and we have a bit alpha of 16, a bit bravo of 0, and a cabin pressure of 14.8.
We copy all, and we're looking into the bit.
Houston Integrity, what is the smoke detector's nominal voltage?
Checking. Integrity for the smoke detector, nominal voltage is around 1.2. We are seeing it hover at 1.2 or just above it.
Thank you for that.
Houston, we'll give you a minute to chew on the data, but our recommendation on board is for you to reconfigure for nominal operations.
And again, that was a replay of a clip of the exchange between spacecraft communicator Jackie Mahaffey here in Mission Control part of the entry flight control team, and Commander Reed Wiseman on board Integrity. Just to recap briefly, at about 3:10 p.m., about 24 minutes ago, there was an enunciation of a smoke detector alarm on board Integrity, but all of the cabin environmental readings checked out to be normal. It is believed that this was the result of some dust that was kicked up. This happens frequently on the International Space Station, by the way. But the bottom line is no harm, no foul. Everything is in order on board Integrity. All of the systems are in great shape, and the crew is pressing ahead with stowage of the cabin and review of their flight data file. One note from the mission status briefing that was concluded. Flight Dynamics has provided to us the total distance traveled between launch and splashdown for Integrity that lifted off from the Kennedy Space Center, Pad 39B, back on Monday. It is calculated by Flight Dynamics that the total distance traveled for the Artemis II mission from launch to splashdown will be 694,481 miles. 694,481 miles. There's your official distance. And that includes the high Earth orbit that Integrity flew in for the first 24 hours of the flight prior to the translunar injection that sent the 4 astronauts off toward the moon and its lunar flyby earlier this week. The crew is preparing to move into a conference with Flight Director Rick Henfling to discuss all of the burns that remain on the docket for this flight and the procedures and all of the review of those procedures for entry and splashdown off the coast of California. This is Mission Control Houston here in the control room as we take a look at this great view of the Earth, growing larger in the field of view from one of the solar array wing cameras on Integrity. Shows the Earth. That's the port of call for Integrity for its splashdown.
Integrity Houston for email. Everything is synced up. You are go to open email. And let us know if and when would be a good time to come on board with the HHP cam.
We are definitely feeling a little bit behind on the timeline, so let us get back on step and we'll get that stuff going.
No worries, we copy.
And Reed Wiseman inviting us to come on board to watch the crew at work on this final full day of activities for the Artemis 2 astronauts. Will be coming on board shortly. Once again, the view of the Earth that you saw a moment ago that will punch out again right there. We're 3 hours and 25 minutes away from reaching the halfway point on the journey home from the moon. Again, splashdown is scheduled. Splashdown is scheduled at 7:07 p.m. Central Time, 5:07 p.m. Pacific Time tomorrow. Once the crew completes its briefing with Entry Flight Director Rick Henfling to review all of the procedures associated with the entry and splashdown in the Pacific tomorrow, the Flight Dynamics Officer will provide the latest numbers and what's known as an entry pad. This is basically a list of numbers that show the time of the burns remaining, particularly the RTC-3, or Return Trajectory Correction number 3 burn, that will take place early tomorrow afternoon, the final major maneuver to fine-tune the orientation of Integrity on its path to enter the Earth's atmosphere with precision to minimize peak heating on the vehicle and to bring it into the corridor that will result in a splashdown close to the recovery ship, the USS John P. Murtha. There is a second return trajectory correction burn that's scheduled this evening at 9:53 p.m. Central Time. That is currently planned to be about an 8-second firing of the reaction control system thrusters with a resulting change in velocity of about 4.2 feet per second, once again fine-tuning Integrity's path toward the entry corridor, essentially a cone across the Pacific from southwest to northeast that is about 475 miles wide, 475 nautical miles wide. If you think of the beginning of entry interface, go 1,300 miles down track toward the coast of California. That is the initiation of the zone, the splashdown zone that we would like to enter in. We would prefer to enter into a zone that is as far downrange as 1,775 nautical miles, which is much closer to the coastline of California and much closer to where the recovery team will be waiting to begin the process of ensuring that the vehicle is not in any anomalous situation, no leaking of toxic gases, and to begin the process of erecting a large raft alongside of the vehicle called the front porch, in which the crew will be extracted and will spend a few minutes getting acclimated to the sensation of gravity for the first time in 9 days before they are hoisted in sequential fashion up to a pair of Navy helicopters to fly them back to the deck of the USS John Murtha, where they will go into medical bay for initial medical evaluations. The latest information that we have received from the Murtha shows the order of extraction of the crew from the vehicle to be in this order. Christina Cook will be extracted first, followed by Victor Glover, then Jeremy Hansen, and the commander, Reed Wiseman, will be last out of his ship. They'll all be in that front porch, the large inflatable raft, buttressed up alongside the hatchway to Integrity, before they are hoisted one by one into the helicopters in alternating fashion. Christina Cook first up to helicopter number 1, Jeremy Hansen next to helicopter number 2, Victor Glover, third in line, will be hoisted to helicopter number 1 to join Cook, and Reed Wiseman last to be hoisted to helicopter number 2 to join Hansen for the short ride back to the deck of the Murtha. There have been a lot of questions regarding peak velocity and G-forces on the crew. We can tell you that the current prediction by Flight Dynamics indicates that the peak velocity for Integrity as it barrels back into the Earth's atmosphere will be just after we begin a 6-minute blackout in communications, which I'll explain again just a moment or two from now. We expect the speed to be about Mach 32, which equates to about 23,839 miles an hour. Now that could vary a bit based on trajectory, angle of attack, and other factors, but we expect the peak velocity to be about 32 times the speed of sound. The G-forces on the crew expected to be up to about 3.9 Gs, very much in limits to what you would see for a returning Soyuz or Dragon crew, even though the velocity entering the Earth's atmosphere is much higher for Integrity because of the distance that it is traveling on its way back from the moon. We'll run down all of the key times of entry events a short time from now, but for now, everything is going very well on board. The crew preparing to enter into a conference with Entry Flight Director Rick Henfling to discuss all of the particulars regarding procedures for tomorrow's homecoming to bring to an end this historic lunar flyby. At a mission elapsed time of 7 days, 22 hours, 12 minutes, 24 seconds into the flight of Integrity, this is Mission Control Houston.
The stream will be cutting off shortly, as packets are going to be dropped, because we are ending the stream now that there's nothing much to commentate on, and plus I was at McDonald's for a bit, that's why there was no commentary. So tomorrow all day you'll be able to see the splashdown tomorrow. And that's going to be happening, so... So Splashdown stream tomorrow, and I'm utterly actually excited for this. I probably won't be home during it, but as long as you guys can see it, then I don't care. But they are on the head for the Earth, so this means I can cut the signal out now, any moment. So, Godspeed Artemis 2. And ItzDrizzlaMania signing out.
Integrity Houston for a follow-up. The false fire cleanup is complete and your leak detection is re-enabled.